Hey,
Hi, can you hear me?
yeah, I'm doing.
I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
That's great. I just want to say welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time out of your night and everything to talk about The Sopranos season 5 with us.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. I feel like I'm often watching it and writing it about it, but not really getting to speak much. So I appreciate you inviting me on to do that.
Anytime. I saw that you were a diehard fan of The Sopranos, so I figured, what better way to actually get another voice in on here besides Mike and I doing this? Mike is actually coming in a little bit later, probably. So, we'll just go in and talk a little bit about what you do and things like that. And then when Mike comes in, we'll start.
All right, awesome. Well, so basically, I'm an attorney. I live in South Florida, so I've been a lawyer for about the past 4 years. I'm also a freelance writer, and I help teach an online course in urban policy and economic development. So the Sopranos is kind of very random. I kind of fell into it over the past couple of years. I mean, when it first came out, I was a little young for it. I was a little bit
Okay.
before my time, but my mother and brother watched it. But I wasn't really until last year that I really started watching it, and then I just kind of like fell head over heels right away, and it was kind of 0 to 100 from there. And so it's I then developed a blog about it, and really it's become my main hobby essentially for about the past year.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean, I didn't come in until maybe season 4, whenever it was actually on the air. So I've actually had to go back and binge watch that before I could actually focus in on season 5 whenever it aired. So I actually bought the DVD sets and then did it from there.
Oh,
So
nice. Very cool. Well, it's funny.
thanks.
My mother-in-law for this past holiday for Hanukkah and Christmas, we celebrate both. She got me like the season 1 and 2 on DVD. So it was like I felt like it was like an antique by that point, but it was really cool. So I
Mhm.
have them. I probably won't even open them, but it was just cool to and I think back to like how I can't imagine how folks waited for like a year and a half in between seasons.
It
Um,
was insane. I'm going to be honest with you. Even Mike, who's actually on right now, can actually agree with that too.
oh,
Hey,
oh,
Mike. Mike? I guess he's not in. Okay, I thought he was there. But
but yeah, it's
Hear me?
great.
oh, there we
Yes.
go.
Okay.
Yes,
so, sorry about that.
it's okay, man.
Yeah. No, what you were saying, I agree to that, John. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
So
sorry,
yeah,
Stephanie. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's yeah. It was just it's remarkable though because I feel like as the first episode premiered over 21 years ago now, but I feel like some of it's become even more relevant today. It's really timeless and even more relevant just in 2020 2021. So I think that's something that always like fascinates me.
Oh, yeah.
same here as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think Mike and I even talked about that with the whole entire thing with the Christopher Columbus parade thing whenever it came down to the protests in season 4. We actually talked about that,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
about how it connects into like a 2021 kind of situation where people are protesting against almost anything now. So,
Oh
Anything or
yeah,
everything.
absolutely. Absolutely. And even when Dr. Melfi talks about, we live in a time, we're in the information age. And then when Artie Bucco in season 6 talks about, we have the most digitized data collection. I just think, that was 2004, 2005. If only they could see 2021.
exactly. So, anyways, with season 5, The Sopranos, episode 1, Two Tonys, this is actually probably one of my favorite introductions into The Sopranos and everything because you're dealing with a lot of stuff that happened in season 4. You're dealing with Tony going through the divorce. You're dealing with, of course, Christopher's addiction after he got out of rehab. Then you also have a bunch of other unclosed stuff that actually happened from season 4. But in episode 1 with the two Tonys, Christopher's actually in a bad mood because Paulie keeps on making him pay for his meals. Chris makes Paulie pay for the meals instead.
Yeah, I remember that was it's just one of those things, it's like they were both wrong. It wasn't something where it was like, oh, Christopher was the one that was on the right side, and then or just Polly, like, they both didn't know how to handle things, and kind of like culminated in the parking lot situation.
Exactly. Because even Mike and I can actually agree with this, though. When two guys get heated up about something that's actually stupid, our tempers tend to heat up.
But how
we don't
funny?
think
How
right.
funny was it when they hit that guy with the brick? I mean, Jesus Christ! Huh? I mean, it was. I mean, it's terrible, poor guy, but fuck.
And then it was like they bonded after that, because then you notice the next
Right.
morning they were like, "Oh, I love you," like it's all good, because it's like they both finally felt so vulnerable, because they're like, "Oh shit, like we don't want to fucking get killed, like like fought over this
Right.
guy, so like let's be best friends now."
Right. My favorite line, though, that Polly actually says after this, like the next day, he winds up saying, "Chris, somebody could have died that night." I'm like, you killed somebody.
No, yeah, that guy.
Right, like,
And
right,
also,
right.
and then the other thing too, whenever he throws the brick at the waiter and everything, he's over there, his legs are kicking, and he goes, "Chrissy, he's fucked up." And so,
Yeah, the way he says it, like he's fucked up.
Well, that's what with Polly. He's so like it's never really the human that he's concerned about. Like even if you go to other seasons and you think of like like with Tracy, or even like with the dog and the Strong and Silent type, like he's always like more concerned about how it's how your attitude is toward the boss, more so than like whether you just killed a human or
right.
anything
exactly.
like that.
Yeah. Even though he's a crazy ass, he's business first,
Exactly.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, just season 5 overall, like there's so much, and I'm sorry, I'm probably gonna go off on some random tangents.
No,
that's okay. But I feel like with everything
fine.
with this show, it's like there's so much. Like I have when I'm like I took my notes earlier, I have right away at the beginning, like the car running over the newspaper is like the first thing that I have written down, that like may not have actually any significance whatsoever, but I always think of like in season 4, in the beginning of each season, really, Tony kind of goes down the driveway in his robe and gets the paper. But now it's kind of like this new era, so to speak. Now they're divorced, like things aren't the same. And so it's just kind of like Meadow rolling over the newspaper, and the car just felt like kind of symbolized it being different.
That, and it's also very grim and also very depressing too, because Tony's not there to keep anything up. So now Carmela's actually trying to get AJ to keep up the house and everything, because she even mentions that though too, because when Carmela comes home, AJ's is actually just banging away on his drum set, and Carmela's mad at him for not doing his chores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say, all of season 5 with AJ was just really frustrating.
It was irritating.
Anything related to AJ was aggravating me, to be honest with you, because Mike could even vouch for me though, because every single time when Carmela was around, it was always AJ this, AJ that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, don't even get me started with the Dr. Wegler with the AJ stuff. I don't even think of, but yeah, just it's, and I get it. Like we were all teenagers once. Like I'm sure we were all a pain in the ass at some point, but it was like there was no redeeming quality with him. Sorry, I feel like I sound like such an AJ hater, but I just
there isn't.
like we were all pains in the ass. Like Meadow was a pain in the ass too, but at least like she did well in school. Like there was like there were redeeming qualities. But no, I don't hate AJ. Not my favorite character, but
it's definitely not my favorite. Yeah, right. he's not the favorite for sure. He's kind of a little whiny bitch. Let's be honest. I mean,
like with the bear, like when you saw the bear.
Yeah, mommy. But yeah, we're gonna get into the beard though too, because at first he's talking back to his mom, and all of a sudden he goes outside and everything to do some chores. All of a sudden, mommy, and she comes out there with pans and everything, banging the pots, trying to scare the beer away.
And I love how the bear was just chilling. Like it kind of looked like it was just gonna like just make it like sit on the little lawn chair and then like
right.
It was just funny how like what are the pots and pans gonna do?
Exactly. And the bear's just like, hey, look, I was just coming here just to chill, you don't have to go on ahead and bang your pots, lady. I was just trying to lay down for crying out loud. But you know, but yeah, and then of course, going ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say, yeah, and it's very, I feel like, symbolic in terms of, like Tony not being there, and then the bear, and then like I've heard people before say that like the bear is Tony is the bear. Like there's of course you could go all the way down the rabbit hole with that one.
Oh yeah.
The analogies, right? Which I didn't find that. I didn't read too much into that kind of atmosphere whenever it came down to that. I was like, okay, there's a bear in the yard. Carmela's trying to get rid of it. They're gonna call some wildlife to try and get rid of the bear.
And AJ's acting like a little girl.
Right. But I also like how Carmela goes on ahead and gets an AK-47 out to try and bring the bear down.
You gotta love that.
Yeah, and then when Benny's like comes by and he's like, I would want a male in the house. Like it was very. I feel like they really played up the patriarchal, like there's need a man in the house, like. But
right.
That was always interesting, of course.
And then, of course, we actually see Tony in Valentina's apartment and everything for a brief moment. And then Tony sends flowers to Melfi because he's actually falling in love with her because of the whole entire thing with Nick Nolte with that film.
Oh, yeah. You could so tell he was so over her already, like, at that point. Well, in terms of Valentina, I mean, like, he was so ready to move on. Like I feel bad that it had to end how it did with them later in the season, but
right,
that was getting pretty stale by then.
Man,
exactly.
This is completely off subject, but I have to bring it up because it reminded me of Tony. But I was sitting in my recliner and I was eating some ice cream, and I had the ice cream on my belly while I was eating it. I was like, shit. I was like, I guess it's time to lose some weight. I thought about Tony. I was like, fuck.
He loved that. That was like if Carmela dared to like ask him anything while he was like sitting in front of there watching.
And
with the ice cream.
Like shout out to James Gandolfini, rest in peace. But like he, but even the way he ate ice cream, it made it look. He was just a fantastic actor. I mean, the way he was eating made it look like, oh, I want some of that. You know what I mean? Like he drew you in no matter what he was doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everything he like in everything in life that he did, he like indulged in it.
Right.
Like he was not
right. And it wasn't just the ice cream. It was, when he was eating pasta and shit, like the way he was like toying with it or whatever he was doing, it made it look like good. It made you want to eat it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Great actor.
Yeah, I remember when I read a book, the Sopranos, the complete book by Brett Martin, and one of the headlines in one of the chapters is The Sopranos. It's about ZD fucking ZD, and I felt like it was just like, I felt like it was yeah.
I'm gonna have to read that book, to be honest with you. I heard about the book and everything. I'm gonna have to try and check that book out.
It's really good. It's kind of like a coffee table book. It's a lot of pictures, a lot of just kind of background. Right. I really enjoyed it.
Wasn't that was the first episode when AJ was like, "No fucking ZD," right?
Yeah.
Right.
That was too fun.
But I also like this other part though too, with Paulie and Christopher up inside the Bing talking about the Russian from season 3.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And it's just like it makes sense because it's just I feel like Valerie, even though he was only in a couple episodes, I feel like his as evidenced by the fact that he was on that Sopranos fundraiser recently, even though he was like this very minor character, he kind of just he was always kind of hanging there in the background because there was definitely never any closure there.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't. And, there was some talks before that they were going to bring him back, but they never did. As a matter of fact, there was actually a scene that was cut out in season 3 where he's actually mopping the floor. And Tony actually sees him. But he has brain damage. So he doesn't remember who he is or anything like that.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense since he's pretty sure Paul clipped his head. But I could just see that happening. He'd be the one person to survive getting shot right in the head somehow.
Most definitely. But I also like the back. Right.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay, but no, I definitely love the back and forth between Paulie and Christopher in that scene because it's like old war stories that they're telling each other about things that they've done. That's what it looks like to me.
Yep.
And they're like, well, we would have gotten the Russian if it wasn't for you, Paulie. Help, Christopher! My shoe fell off.
Right, like such petty little things, which also reminds me
Right.
of when you mentioned that giving all war stories. It reminded me of Feach, which of course I guess we'll get into soon. But I just remember when they were sitting in the back with Paulie Giamatti and Christopher and Tony and Silvio, and he starts trying to tell them it's like the night that he beat that longshoreman to death over the corner table.
Yeah, Feach. We're gonna get into him.
We'll get into him.
The New York and New Jersey mafiosos are actually getting out of jail. They've been in jail since the 1980s, and they are released, including Tony's cousin, Tony Bondino. I forgot how you actually say his name.
That's good enough.
Blendetta.
Yeah.
There you go.
Blendetta. And Carmine has a stroke.
With the egg salad.
Yeah. That was so gross.
And he's like, hey, get the egg salad out of his mouth. Then Melfi dreams that she's having sex with Tony.
Yeah.
Which actually feels a lot more realistic than it did a dream. But, you know.
Yeah.
Then the next day, Tony confronts her that he has feelings for her, and he watched Dr. Phil say she won't get sued for dating. And an ex-patient, she calls him out about his marriage falling apart and about how it's affecting the kids. He wants to show her two sides of him. Tony is mad at Christopher about not paying for Paulie's food. Chris only pays $1,200 and didn't tip the waiter. Chris throws a brick at the waiter, and Paulie shoots the waiter, and they drive off.
The best.
It just goes to show the transactional nature of like everything with them. Like they the only thing they were worried about was getting caught. Like they didn't care if the actual person died, or like they were just like,
so great.
No. And remember, Paulie takes the check, takes Christopher's money, and goes, and the first thing out of Christopher's mouth, he goes, "That's my fucking money." Paulie.
Right. He's running off. He's like, "That's my fucking money, Paulie."
Well, that kind of reminds me almost of, in like, I guess briefly going off on a tangent back to season 2, but like in Funhouse when Paulie goes down and gets like Pussy's watch and like stuff like that, like he's just like, what's the value in this? Like, I'm not really concerned about the person. Like, get the money.
Right.
But what did you guys think about the whole thing about whenever Tony confronts Melfi about his feelings for her, and he watched Dr. Phil?
Tony don't.
That was his version
Tony
of going to
don't know
therapy.
what the hell he wants, man. You know what I'm saying? He's all over the place. You know.
Yeah, he's. I think it's interesting though, and because you know that's where he goes off into his whole two Tonys thing, and it's like, you know, you almost just out of curiosity are like, I wonder like what it would look like if he and Dr. Malfi like went on an actual date, which of course they didn't. But I think it's really a shock for him because he's used to getting what he wants.
He's spoiled, yeah, exactly. And you know, he confuses love with infatuation. You know, he gets infatuated with things, and he wants, you know, everything that he, you know, gets infatuated with. And so I mean, her denying that and not giving what he wants, it's like he's, like you said, not used to that. He's spoiled. You know?
Yeah, he's definitely spoiled, and it's like what he can't have is what he wants. So he's gonna try anything he can to get it. But he's also like a little 12-year-old kid where basically he has a crush on somebody and then he gets turned down. He goes, well, up fungul, I'm not gonna even bother with you anymore. You know? And you know, it's kind of like if you think about it, when a guy cheats on somebody and then they call it quits with that one, he wants to go out back with the ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend tells him no, and then he throws a tantrum. That's what it also seems like to me too. But he also reminisces about Artie's wife though too. He's like, you know what, a girl like Artie's wife and everything, I think that should be okay for me. What do you think?
Yeah, remember he said she's a notary public like later in the season. But yeah, with Tony, it's interesting how, you know, Dr. Malfi, she turned down his dinner invitation, so he's like, oh, let me just go ask her if she wants to go away on a quick vacation with me. And she pointed out, she's like, I wouldn't go to dinner with you, but now you're gonna ask me to go away on vacation with you. Like, not sure that works, but I guess he's used to like doing something nice and fancy that usually gets him what he wants, like with Carmela, for example.
Right.
So interesting.
All right. So So at this point, we're. Did you want to go to episode 2 with
Yeah,
the Rat
sure.
Pack?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the Rat Pack, Tony's actually in a diner, and we actually have Macaron Jack, and gives him a painting of the Rat Pack. Tony doesn't know that Jack is an informant for the FBI. Patsy tips Tony off that Jack is a rat. Tony goes over to Junior's house. Finchy asks Tony if he has anything for Tony B. When he gets out, Tony tells him about the airbag scam. And Tony also buys Tony B a cell phone. Carmine dies, and Bobby starts talking about how Carmine came up with the idea of point shaving. Lorraine meets Chris at the wake of Carmine, and she's a lady Shylock. Phil makes a joke at Carmine's wake. Carmine Jr. takes offense to the jokes, and Tony B lost contact with his daughter.
Yeah, it's a lot. I feel like, the first, second, and third episode really of season 5 really have a lot packed in. But I think my favorite quote in season 5 episode 2 was what Junior said at the end, when they were talking about Carmine dying, and Tony's laughing about what Junior wants to be his ashes to be put under the moose, like when he's buried, and then he says, "Keep joking, let me tell you something. It's like that game we used to play as kids, Crack the Whip. You run around like an idiot, holding hands as tight as you can, and then the line snaps, somebody lets go, and you're next." And it kind of just reminded me of their fate, all of them in the end, and kind of how it's just like a domino effect later, more in season 6. But I feel like it was a lot of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Right. Most definitely. And it also kind of reminds me of that old song that we, not old song, but this old game that we used to play as kids. Red Rover, come over, Red Rover, and the kid would try and run through the ropes. So that kind of reminds me of that too, in a sense. That was like our version of Crack the Whip, that I want to say. But I definitely love the setup whenever it comes down to the fact when Fichi, whenever he's asking about if Tony has anything for him. This goes to show you that he's actually going to be a thorn in
we're
Tony's
talking about
ass
Feach?
the whole entire season.
Yeah.
Okay, Feach. Yeah, okay.
Feach. Yep.
Yeah, he was. He almost reminded me a lot of Richie, although of course Tony, decided to have him just sent back to prison rather than with what he did with Richie. But yeah, I mean, he clearly. I think with Feach is he always saw Tony as a kid. Even when he got out, he always saw Tony as this young guy that knocked off my card game. Like I don't think he was ever able to fully respect him, and that's why he did something as stupid as everything that he did essentially.
Right, because remember he said, "Oh, Godfather, let me go in ahead and kiss the ring," and then when Tony's also making jokes and everything, he was pissed off at Tony. But we'll get to that
and
in
they
the
were in
coming
prison
episode
for
too.
so long, they get out and shit's not going to be the same, obviously. You know what I'm saying? And he needs to fall in line, but he's old school and he can't. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's like if you're in any industry and then you go away and then you come back all of a sudden, 20 years later, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of things that are different that may not make sense to you.
Absolutely.
Right, because they're actually expecting to come out the same way that they went in, and wanting things kicked up to them, and that's not the way it works, because new people are in charge. The old people died, or they're older now, so therefore the new regime is elevated, which is Tony.
What did you all think about with Jack Macaron? The whole I always thought that was interesting. Tony's process of figuring out that he was the rat with just the dinners that they had and whatnot.
Oh, I thought it was fantastic, to be honest with you, because if you notice, Tony was very silent during the time, even though he's eating pie. Tony wasn't giving him shit. Like you can definitely tell that Tony knew that he was up to something, but he didn't know exactly what. And he even told him, he goes, "Hey, take off your hat and everything, and enjoy the food and everything." But Jack never took off his hat, so that also indicated that maybe he had a wire on him as well, and he was also acting kind of weird at the table as well. He acted really awkward, and also all over the place.
He kept asking him. He kept following up about business stuff, he was being too obvious. But yeah, with the hat, you bring up a great point, because that's kind of was just like a sign of disrespect.
Absolutely.
Like remember with the guy in Artie's restaurant in season 1, that with the hat, like I didn't even realize till you just pointed that out. Like that's pretty much like an FU.
Right. Yep.
Exactly. It's a disrespect thing to him. And then also too, like I said, I thought that scene was really good. And then also too, you also have the 2 FBI agents outside of the diner, and then the cop actually winds up running the plates, and it's actually someone that Patsy knows, and then Patsy tells Tony.
Yep, I remember he runs in, like, and I remember like the music itself is like very, it's like very, daunting, like when they show Patsy running in to tell him about it. But yeah, with that, it was interesting, because I feel like with kind of the whole process, even up to them, killing him, whoever did, it was more subtle. Whereas like with Jimmy Altieri, is like they literally show him like, getting shot in the head. Whereas with this, it's just, they briefly show him like in the trunk of the car, but you're kind of left to imagine what happened.
Right.
But yeah, it's a lot.
Then let's see. Then we actually have Tony B doesn't want to be a part of the mob life anymore or anything like that. He's getting out. He wants to pursue being a massage therapist. Carmela, Adriana, and the girls have a film club together. The FBI logo is at the start of the film and messes with Adriana's emotions. Tony B brings a massage chair into the bank after getting off of work from the linen company and starts, and then everybody starts.
Let me ask y'all a question. What did y'all think about Steve Buscemi's role? What do y'all? How do y'all think he did? I think he did fantastic. I mean, like, I never knew that he could act like that before that role. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought he was just some funny guy, that did little things here and there. I didn't know he could be a fucking gangster like that in a movie. I mean, he did great. I think he did fantastic.
I think he did.
I don't know. I think the reins on that one.
I think he did very well. I was having a conversation with someone earlier. We're talking like about how it was so tragic how things ended with his character, because I think he really did want to do things right. I mean, even, I'm sure we'll get into this later in the season, but, if it weren't for him, I think Christopher would have been killed in Irregular Around the Margins by Tony. He was the voice of reason. So then it's just ironic how then later on, he's the one that kind of goes off the reservation. But I think it was just so many little things added together to that just really, like, he kind of just lost it. It wasn't like one thing happened, but I think it was just over the course of the season, like from his kids saying they don't want to stay there to, having the issues with his girlfriend, and then, with the guy at work. And I think it was just kind of, there was obviously the straw that broke the camel's back eventually. But
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, please go. No, I was finished. Please.
Yeah, no, they I think they did a really good job of showing, when somebody's trying to turn their life around, when they're used to that lifestyle and then they're trying to do right, and how just everything just keeps shitting on them. It's tough, and a lot of people do turn back, to crime and shit when they get out of prison. And I think they depicted that very well. I think they did very good,
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a really important point. I think he mentioned that even a couple of times. He's like, you assume that, the ex-con is like, you can never fully let them back into society. I did think he was like he was very into Meadow. Like, not that I think there was like anything really going on there, but he certainly loved to bring her up, like how wonderful she was.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
As just a side note.
It was a little weird.
But you asked a question about Steve Buscemi's acting ability, Mike, and everything. He did fantastic. Not only that, but he actually directed a couple of episodes.
From Pine Barrens,
believe it or not.
Oh shit.
Yep, he directed Pine Barrens and I think a couple of others. And then David Chase said, "Look, we have a role for you. Do you want to take it?" And Steve said, "Yeah, I'll take it." So that's how he became Tony B. He didn't even have to audition or anything, which is actually one of the things that Talking Sopranos was actually talking about.
Because I remember when I was
that he didn't even have to audition.
When I first was watching the show and I seen Steve Buscemi, I was like, he ain't gonna be able to play no fucking gangster role. This is gonna, and he blew my mind, man. He did good. He did really good.
Right. Right, and I also liked it too, the back and forth with Vito and the rest of the guys, though, especially whenever he's just talking, breaking balls with him. He goes, "Hey, are you gonna deal this? That's not cake, you know."
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then when he started giving them all the massages, and even like Polly, and then Tony came in, he's like, "What is this? A leave for 1 hour? Is a slumber party in here?"
And then Paul's like, "Ooh, my back! I haven't felt my back in years."
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, it was good. It was almost like it was like a light scene. Then of course,
Right,
only for a little bit, but I felt like that was a
Yeah.
little bit of nice comic relief
right.
in the middle.
But then we also see Tony B also breaking Tony's balls though too, and disrespecting
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He goes, "Ooh,
Oh
you're
yeah.
fat."
And that, oh yeah, that he hated that because that's like the one of the things that Tony hated the most. Like everything was so about appearances, like, and so the idea that someone's like cracking a joke at the boss is like he can't. To him, that's just so undermining because it's just such a, I feel like a wound to his ego, even though it's really just guys breaking balls. I think that to him that was like the ultimate
And
no.
again,
Right,
Tony B, he's just getting out of prison. He's thinking of it, from the old days, and it ain't the old days anymore. You can't, even though they're cousins, you can't break balls like you used to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Tony's the boss now.
Mhm.
right, right.
Right. Oh, one other thing that I thought was with season 5, episode 2, although it's not really just a season 5 thing, but Ray Curto, like how random is he just kind of like the whole time in the background, uh, working with the FBI. And I like remember just him in the office with the FBI that this episode, I think, when he was like, I got you something, like, where am I going to get, are you going to give me a raise now? And then they were like, you didn't get
Oh
the
yeah,
making ceremony. So it was just like, it reminded me of like a normal like
Yeah, right.
employee evaluation.
right. That made me laugh though, to be honest with you. Every single time whenever they would actually do something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
because he was pretty like obnoxious too, but
Yeah.
interesting just how he kind of like nothing ever came of that in general with him.
Let's see. We actually have episode 3. Where's Johnny? Tony sitting at the bar at the Bing, and Tony B picks up their linens. Tony tells Tony B that it's hard to see him like that working a real job. Tony tells Tony B he would have been there the night of the boosting if it wasn't for him getting jumped and he got 15 stitches and Tony got 15 years. So you can actually tell there's some guilt there with some guilt and shame with him getting the 15 years, 15 stitches, and Tony actually getting 15 years in prison because it was like the life that Tony B was supposed to have. Instead, Tony actually has that life, but this is actually something that's going to come up later on in the season. But I definitely liked how
Yeah, there's a bit of
he
resentment for
actually
sure.
touched based on that.
You could tell.
Yeah, it's almost like you wonder, like, does Tony B actually believe him that because obviously, of course, what had really happened was he had a a panic attack,
Right.
and that's when he fell and had to get the stitches. But it's overall, I feel like when Tony looks back on it at the end of season 5, Melfi kind of questions him, like, do you really feel guilty, or is it more of just you feel like you don't want to be guilty? Like, are you actually upset and do you want to help him, or is it more just you want to get this guilt off your shoulder in terms of everything with Tony B?
And get this, that's exactly what it was. It was just more like, okay, I feel guilty. Let me try and do anything I can to make it
More
right.
so, which kind of reminds me also of like when they go visit guys at the hospital, like after guys get beat up. It's like, I don't think it's something where they really, or maybe not all of them, but like with Tony, for example, when he goes and visits the guys at the hospital, I don't think it's so much of he cares, but it's like he wants to kind of go through the motions and do the right thing, so to speak,
Faith,
so that they don't go to the cops,
Right.
or they don't try to start shit.
And show
Right.
kind of respect.
Right,
In a
exactly.
sense.
And that's
And
go ahead.
Let's see, and then Tony.
Oh no, I was saying,
Tony?
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay. So then we actually see Tony B is hanging around with Beach, and Beach is talking bad about Tony, and everything. Oh, we go. Oh, you're talking about the Godfather, huh? The young Godfather, the King
Yeah,
of
you
New
can just
Jersey,
so like tell that that's not going to
and
end
everything.
well already.
Right. Yeah, you could totally see that.
Right.
I didn't like Feach, from the first episode that I saw him, and I knew that was going to be bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was funny because when I first couldn't stand him because I thought he was just like despicable and disgusting, which still think he is. I think he's almost grown on me, because I think he's so horribly horrible, but like in a good way for the role that he's playing, that it's amusing. But yeah, he definitely was an acquired taste for me. Sure. Definitely was like a ticking time bomb. Like I don't think he could have lasted any longer than he did.
Yeah, I mean,
because
and
it was just
the show has
toxic.
to have a villain, and that's who he was. He was the guy that everybody hated.
Well, to be honest with you, when I was reviewing this, at the very first of the season, like whenever I wasn't reviewing anything, doing podcasting and stuff like that, I tolerated Feach. But now, when I'm reviewing this, Feach actually got on my nerves. Like I tolerated him. He's like the grandfather that shows up at your high school high school performance or something like that you don't.
That reminds me of Richie too when he did that. Should have been separately though. There's a lot of parallels, I think.
Oh yeah,
right,
between
for sure.
Exactly. Most definitely. And then, of course, we actually see this happening with Tony B, though, where he's actually going to different sides.
Right.
Because he doesn't know what side he wants to be on. It's like he's confused on his own identity and everything. If he wants to be with his cousin, if he wants to be with the New York gang with Carmine Jr., he doesn't know where he stands within the mob itself. We actually see that being played out, even with Feach. It's like, well, maybe I should stay with Feach since I've done some prison time with Feach.
Right. I think it's something where anyone, whenever they'd come out of prison, I imagine a lot of it's just kind of adjusting and like finding your new identity. But especially given that, the power vacuum and everything that happened with Carmine Lupertazzi Sr. dying, I feel like it was just even more chaotic than usual. Good for an entrepreneur, and I guess in that sense, someone who wanted to be a free agent, but for someone who wants stability, not so much.
Right. Yep.
Right. And then, of course, this is also, too, when Feach is telling Tony B to do the massage therapist job as a front. And Feach doesn't care for Tony, calls him the boy king, like I mentioned before. And then Vitro Landscaping comes into play on this one. I feel bad for the poor guy.
I mean, he broke the shit out of that guy's arm, huh?
I felt so badly for him. I couldn't even watch. It was hard to watch, that part.
Terrible. Oh, God.
Right.
It would be different if the guy deserved it, but I couldn't. This is somebody innocent bystander that was just doing a job, like he normally does for 20 years since they've been away.
School coming out of him, man. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't give a shit. He broke the shit out of that guy's arm.
And let's see, Feach doesn't like it because his nephew does that part of the neighborhood, and Vitro has been doing the neighborhood for 26 years, like I mentioned. And Feach kicks the guy in the balls and takes him down and hitting him over and over again. And so then, of course, we actually have Junior is having a hard time with his Alzheimer's and thinks he sees himself on TV and Curb Your Enthusiasm and thinks that Bobby is on TV with him.
I loved those little things of Junior watching TV, which is later in the episode too, when he randomly says, "Oh, prairie dogs, they sleep during the day." Like that was definitely a big Junior episode with this one. I think about also their dinner when Junior kept repeating he never had the makings of a varsity athlete. Like this was a big varsity athlete episode.
Right.
For sure.
Matter of fact, in the Talking Sopranos Facebook group, we have people that just post that quote all the time.
So you all are in that one too? Funnier. I should have assumed, I guess.
It's yeah, I'm in that group. And the funny thing is that there's actually just some random guy. You know what? Today just sucks. It's just reminds me of me not being a varsity football player. So But but then of course this is actually going to be my longest thing that I actually took notes on. Was
Oh no,
on
I remember.
episode
I
3.
remember. I think I
Just
saw
letting
you
you
the other
guys
day. You're
know.
like, "Where's Johnny's?" Multiple pages, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Right, and then Tony calls Bobby into the Bing. Bobby wants to be on the streets more and earn more, especially after the
Poor
promotion.
Bobby.
And he's still taking care of Uncle Junior. Tony depends on Bobby. Yeah, and he's the only one that trusts him and tells him that maybe he can collect more. Polly finds out that Vitro got beat up
Don't
from
you love how the
Polly's
grapevine,
mom.
how things go through the grapevine? It's like it's
It
all
spreads
through
like
the grapevine.
wildfire.
Right? And it's crazy because New Jersey, you don't expect
Well, it's
news
like,
to travel that
yeah.
quickly.
Well, it's like with the regular around the margins,
And
which I'm sure
everything.
we'll get to how the rumors spread so quickly. Not that the thing actually happened, but about Adriana with how they ended up in the hospital. Like that was just like bam, like right away.
Right.
It was like playing telephone. That's what it
Mhm.
reminded me of.
Mhm. Oh my
Right.
God! Yeah,
Mike, that
for
kind of
sure.
reminds me of our
Where are
town,
you
right?
all? Where do you all live, or where are you all from?
Poplarville, Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
Very
Yeah.
small.
That's
Very small.
Yeah.
That is
In a little
awesome.
small town. So
Very
It's
cool.
yeah. I think it's
Oh.
something.
yeah, we
something
actually
like
went to high
2,000
school
people,
together.
I believe, or
So
something like that.
Oh
It's
wow. The county I live in has
yeah,
2
something
million
like that.
people, or nearly almost 2 million. So
Jesus Christ, yeah, that's a lot of people.
but 2,000.
Oh
Wow,
shit.
that's. I'm sure there's a lot of good things about that though, as well.
We have a lot of trees. That's
Right.
yeah. That's about it.
And cows and horses. But anyways, let's see here. Then we actually learn more, especially Tony calls Bob. Okay, so at that point, Polly finds out that Vitro got beat up from Polly's mom. And I also like that whenever Polly's just pissed off about the situation, he's like, who the fuck did that? So of course he finds out his speech. And then this is also too where Lorraine collects
That
her
was
money
one
from the
of my
bar.
favorites. Horrible that I shouldn't say one of my favorite scenes because it's a horrible scene. But when he says next time there will be no next
Right,
time,
it really is.
Like it was just such a great Phil Leotardo
Right.
moment.
It is because Phil comes in and slaps her and shakes her down and duct tapes her hands because she isn't paying up to Johnny. Lorraine has been paying up to Carmine Jr. instead. She says she'll go down on them. And my favorite line that Phil actually says, "Is she any good?" Never mind, you probably taught her.
Thought that the whole their relationship, when I also think of when they were sitting with Angelo and Tony and Junior to tell him this is I guess the next episode, or may have been this episode, but to tell Tony and Junior that they were having problems, and her partner Jason was like, potential bloodshed, we almost got killed, and she's like, Jason, men are talking here. I was just like, that was.
It was good.
I love it. And then, like you mentioned before, the book muffles out the shot and shoots her in the chest. The phone book doesn't even allow the bullet to hit her. It makes it only to the R's. Next time there will be no next time.
Questioning, did he know that it was gonna stop, or was he literally just kind of totally Russian roulette? Oh, it might go through all the way through, might not.
I would hope he knew, but he probably didn't. He probably did not know.
I don't think, to be honest with you, knowing Phil and the loose cannon that he actually is, Johnny probably just sent him over there to send a message. So
that's true.
Phil's way of sending a message is, well, if you die, you die. If you don't,
that's true.
You live another day.
And she didn't learn, and then she didn't. I mean, I don't see how she would have thought that was going to end well.
Right.
No, same. Then Angelo meets up with Junior and Tony with Lorraine because Johnny wants her to kick up to him, and she's mad because Carmine Sr.'s body hasn't been dead long enough to even collect any maggots. And Johnny wants her to kick up to him. Tony suggests having a
I have to say, I made a couple of memes over the past couple of weeks with the paralleling with because there's been so many headlines over the past few weeks about the Senate, the U.S. Senate getting in a power sharing situation. So for one morning I saw that and I was like, I took a picture of it and I put it up next to the one of Tony talking about there being a power sharing situation. Like,
That's great.
Oh wow. Another good meme would be AT&T family share plan. But that just made me crack up. And then where she pays up to Carmine Jr. and Johnny and Angelo, Polly has a sit down with Feach to talk about
it was
vitro.
just. Oh, go ahead. No, I was gonna. Say, I feel like
no, go ahead. I want to hear your
with
thoughts.
them again. Even though Tony was the boss, I feel like Feach doesn't really fully respect him, and I also think that Polly has resented him for a while. So I feel like just that whole conversation among the three of them wasn't really like. I just felt like they kind of still wanted to do their own thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And Polly's always the type of person that wants to take things into his own hands rather than go into Tony first, which is also what
and then even in season 3, it's kind of ironic when you think about it, how like at the Christopher's making ceremony way back when, Polly was like, if you have a problem, you just got to go to this guy. Then meanwhile, like when Christopher actually went to him with something about Polly, he's like, don't you ever go talk to him again about other issues.
Yeah, right.
And then this is where Johnny and Tony have a meeting about Lorraine, about Phil, about power sharing plan. Johnny said, and this is my favorite one that Johnny says. Johnny always has the best lines. Because remember in season 4, whenever they talk about Jenny's sack, about how big she is and everything, what does he get to do? Fuck my wife for $1 million? So when when he talks about the power sharing plan with Johnny, he asks, "What the fuck is this?"
And then actually, and then little Carmine uses the UN later in the season in unidentified blackmails. He's like, this isn't the UN. Like he says it in a much more calm way than Johnny Sack, but
calmer way.
Funny that it was similar.
Right. But to me, whenever he goes off on a tangent like that, it just makes it that much funnier when he gets mad.
They all have. It's interesting how they all have their little things that really tick them off.
Yeah. I mean, they're all like children. I mean, they're all like spoiled freaking children. It's ridiculous.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I think even Carmela said that though in season 1.
Yeah, kids that
they're
them.
like kids.
Kids that'll blow your fucking head off.
Right. Now we actually see the Alzheimer's though with Junior though. He's actually sneaks out of the house, drives around,
looking for Johnny's
for Junior Soprano.
Yeah.
Oh no worries.
This
was
Johnny Soprano. Sorry about that.
There was a little bit of comic relief in that one too, when the woman who was, I think she was homeless, who she went and found him when he was sitting at the bus stop, and he said to me, "You and I had relations."
Right. And she goes, "You dry? I'll give you half now, half later." And he goes, "Fuck, I need to find my car." And he just gets up and leaves.
I was like, wait a minute.
Bathrobe.
Johnny had to fuck me up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm back in it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's fine, man. Because remember, Junior is actually going into this old building that Johnny probably used to run. And that's whenever some other guys actually own the place now. And he says, "Wait, you're talking about those Italian guys? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there hasn't been anybody around here in like over 20, maybe 30 years."
Yeah, he was.
So
but one thing I thought was really good was that Dominic Chianese, he actually had did a lot of like studying, and he really learned like the behaviors and kind of mannerisms and some things that people in real life with Alzheimer's have, because he wanted it to be realistic, like not just then but throughout the remainder of the series, which I thought was just good in general in terms of just
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
Definitely. Now this is actually my favorite thing.
Oh yeah.
Though Polly is actually listening to a self-help tape on peace and learning when to strike and not to strike. He pulls up on the other company that's actually doing landscaping. And he takes he beats them up, and also makes one of the guys fall off the tree with the hang glider or whatever that he has. And then
Yeah.
he beats them up, and then and takes the push mower with
That
him
was
and
great. And
puts
then
it
poor
in the trunk.
Salvitro, when Polly came to like give him the good news that he was getting some of his work back, he was like, he thought Polly was just gonna like make it all right. But he's like, no, it's a compromise. Like you can get, you get this $500, and then you can keep half the block. And he's like, I gotta eat too. And I think like it wasn't until
Right.
then that Salvitro really realized just like how transactional all of this was. Like this isn't because he really cares about you; it's just because he's just doing it for transactional reasons.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Right. And then also too, we also dealing with Bobby worrying about Junior, wondering where he's at because he's missing. And then Janice comes in.
No.
This is the thing that pissed me off. She does not care about where Junior is and everything. But yeah, when Bobby's mourning and everything over his wife, she said, "You need to go on ahead, get up, and do what you need to do to take care of my uncle." Now all of a sudden, because it doesn't benefit her and everything, she's pissed off because of the
Right.
fact
Yeah.
that
Bobby just
she
does
can't
not
go
get
lay
enough
down or
credit,
whatever.
man. I mean, he really doesn't.
He's he's I think that's why it's so sad at the at the end what happens with him, because I think he actually really cares for Junior, whereas with Janice and even Tony, but I mean mostly Tony. Janice, like Janice was in it for Janice.
Yeah, for sure.
It was she could play the role of the we'll do the Sunday dinners and kind of fake it for a little bit, but then when it came down to it, I mean she didn't want to go like actually put effort into taking care of him. She complained to Tony like, I'm taking care of these kids now, but like, I mean, she just was kind of just laying down a lot, like Bobby said, and he definitely he did not get enough credit.
No, not at all.
No. And let's see here. After that, Adriana is wondering how much longer she has to keep ratting out Tony. Fichi and Polly reaches out to Tony about Vitro. The two of them split the neighborhood, and then Uncle Junior is diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And then that's also left this actually broke my heart because of what Tony asked.
Yeah, that was
Junior.
tough.
He goes, "Don't you love
that
me?"
was a sad, and even just kind of like the ending scene, and just even like the music, it felt very, it was, I don't know, it was very like ominous. I just felt like it was very, kind of like dark things are ahead. Like it was very, it was really sad, and you could tell that Tony was sad also, even though he'd never admit it. You could tell that he was.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely, and also shows like at the end of an era for that also represents the end of the era for Junior.
Absolutely,
as far as this point goes,
absolutely.
he's no longer
and
in his right mind.
Before then, like even in season 4, you could kind of, you weren't really sure. There were times when he, seemed like he was a little bit out of it, but you weren't fully. You're like, okay, maybe he's just, just being old. But yeah, season 5 like was when you really like know that he was past the point of full competence.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see, and then episode 4 we have All Happy Families. That's actually episode 4, and AJ is practicing to drive, or what seems to be practicing driving, but it's more of like Grand Theft Auto, going back and forth in and out of the driveway.
Oh, no, go
ahead. Tony B, what's that?
Oh no! That was I was just gonna say. I feel like
did you have something to add to that? Or?
Interesting about season 5 is I feel like it's just a lot of like family affairs as a whole. So I thought that the All Happy Families, it could almost be like a name for the season 5 as a whole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Let's see. Then Tony B is at Tony's house spraying his nephews with a water hose. Tony tells Carmela about how he's not going to therapy. Carmela and Tony have to go to the school meeting for AJ. This is actually where it takes off with the whole entire thing with the parent conference teacher meeting with Wegler. And Maureen gets whacked by Phil and his crew, which, yeah. this to me, this scene was kind of funny because he's actually slapping her on the ass with
You
the
notice how
towel.
it's
So,
how she's crawling. It's kind of eerie how, you know, that's essentially what Adriana's doing. I mean, Adriana's clothed, of course,
You know,
but
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
mhm.
later in the series, and it's one of those things where you're like, it may have absolutely nothing to do with the other thing. It could be a total coincidence, but of course, how David Chase, he throws these things in.
Yeah,
So
but it was the same way. They were both crawling the same way. That is kind of eerie. You know?
You're right.
Yeah.
It was definitely airy and everything. To be honest with you, I kind of picked up on it this go round opposed to before because I wasn't reviewing anything. So it was kind of foreshadowing in a sense. But yeah, then of course, you know, Jason is also dead. Her boyfriend's dead. So she doesn't have any backup or anything. And then Angelo gets the call that Lorraine got whacked. Carmine Jr. is mad at the war with Johnny about Lorraine. Feach visits Tony about who should have gotten the position of New York.
It's a
He
mess.
talks about Adriana.
For sure.
And I think that little Carmen, obviously, as we'll see later in the next season, he's just like, he doesn't want to be bothered with this nonsense. Which, you know, and at the end of the day, I think he makes the right decision, and kind of has, you know, that epiphany. But you know, you could tell that it's just like it's getting messier and messier.
Yeah, for sure.
And then,
right.
Yeah.
Because remember in season 1,
it's
Tony
funny
said
how they were
nobody
saying
wants the
that how
job.
like Tony was asking Ray if he wanted to be the boss, like way back in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And it's like you wonder, like, was he already talking to the government then? But it's ironic how I can't see him as boss at all.
No.
But and then also, of course, in this one is he has no eyebrows, Tony. That's when AJ goes to the concert.
Oh yeah. I actually posted on Facebook where I said,
"Oh my god, that's
AJ did the Gorilla Glue challenge before anybody else before it was cool."
He's such a little dipshit. I mean,
he is.
Yes.
But also too, this is also where Tony B's at the poker game,
Uh-huh.
and we can actually see where he's slowly getting it back into the mob life again. Because he's actually picking up on the poker game and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and this is where
it was so funny.
And Tony's center, and then when Tony's like deciding what to do about him, he has like a little flashback, and you can see he just there still.
Oh, let's talk about that for a minute. Because remember, Carmela also was the one who brought that to Tony's attention. Because normally Melfi is the one who actually brings certain things to his attention, but since he hasn't been in therapy, Carmela was the one who said, "Do you want to know why those guys laugh at you? It's not because they enjoy your jokes or anything; it's because they fear you." So when we see that flashback, Peach is over there buttering something with a butter knife and just being pissed off, right? And also too, this another thing though that I actually wanted to touch base on is the joke that he actually tells where where Feature's actually talking about this bell bottom girl or this girl that he goes, she bent over and then Tony goes, and kapoots.
And that was just in the whole dynamic there with Dr. Frieden, and how awkward is it when Tony's like, I never got my invitation to this wedding. I felt like that was just, I feel like that was also kind of Tony realizing like these guys aren't really my friends.
Right.
Because it's something like if he were a friend, like he would have, you know, gotten an invitation to this guy's wedding. I feel like, you know, it was something little, but something that I felt just kind of added on to his insecurity.
Definitely. And then also too, like you mentioned, the wedding and everything, Jewish wedding, Feach winds up doing this whole entire thing where he winds up stealing everybody's cars and puts it on the lift.
And it was
like a very perfectly orchestrated hit.
Dumb. I guess I don't know if it was like if Feach really didn't know that he was a friend of Tony's, even though he told him, or if he just literally didn't care. But I was like, dude,
I don't think he cared.
Like,
no, I think he knew, but also didn't care because if you think about it, whenever he's over there
Yeah.
buttering whatever the hell he's buttering, he's pissed off. And then of course that guy's also there too. His
Yeah.
friend's there, so he's trying to think of a way to actually backstab his friend. So that's whenever he decides. And don't forget, his friend's also talking about how much money he's spending on the wedding and things like that, and about the car.
Yeah, and also he probably still had resentment from back when they
gave him an
robbed his card game back in the day. So he's probably like, "Oh, you all came and did this to me. Like I still have my turn now."
Yeah. Eye for an eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Definitely. Then Tony has a meeting about AJ's grades. This is where Carmella and Tony both have the meeting about AJ's grades. Tony buys AJ a car.
And then, of course,
once he brings his
never
grades
happens.
up, he can drive it.
I thought it was interesting how in the meeting with Dr. Wegler, how he kind of suggested therapy. And then this is where Tony's like, whatever happened to Gary Cooper, the strong and silent type? And then the regular was like, well, Gary Cooper's not a 16-year-old boy. And then Tony says, well, he was at one point. And it's just like...
That was good.
It's really comical between the two of them. I'm going to be honest with you. Whenever he brings up Gary Cooper,
exactly,
because he thinks that Gary Cooper can save him from any situation,
an actual thing as opposed to just a fictional character.
Right.
And then, no, go ahead. No, I was
exactly
Gary Cooper. Nothing.
Then let's see. Oh, go on. I'm sorry. Okay. Then AJ's teacher wants to have a meeting with Carmella about AJ's grades, and AJ and Carmella about AJ's grades, and then Carmella they have dinner together. Carmella tries to talk to AJ about drumming, tries to actually be on the same level as her son.
I read that episode when he's playing the drums,
and of course he just winds up being an asshole to her
over and over again, and I wanted to strangle him. It was so aggravating to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was really aggravated just by how he was talking to Carmella. Like, she was trying to be obviously like, she brought up the Beatles, but she could have been other random things. But like, she was just literally trying to make conversation, and then he was just like, he was just so. He was not good to Carmella.
Yeah, he was being a little prick. I couldn't stand him. I did not like AJ. That's yeah.
Me either.
Yeah.
With the eyebrows.
And then this is also where AJ goes to the Mudvayne concert. And I like when Tony looks at him the next day, goes, "What the fuck is wrong with you? There's something off with you." And then Carmella goes, "You don't have any eyebrows."
Weird sex with the teacher, which is funny because it's actually Carmella the one that ends up sleeping with the teacher that he thinks is gay. There are so many like random pair, ironies. One other thing that I always thought was interesting about when Wegler and Carmella go to dinner is when he's telling her about the Madame Bovary book, and the way he describes it, he's like, it's horrifically funny though tragic. It reminded me of just like a description of The Sopranos itself.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And that always sticks out to me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then, of course, this is also where Feach is going to be the end of Feach now.
Oh, yeah.
Because Chris asked Feach to store the flat screen TVs in the garage. And I love how they're playing it off. Like, hey, man, we got to get the fuck out of here and everything because of the fact that, we have this business thing going on. And Feach is like, what's going on? He goes, nah, you don't want to hear about it. And then, next thing you know it. Right? And then, of course, he goes on and stores the flat screen TVs. His parole officer comes over. And, of course, we already know we got tipped off. So he's like, what's in the garage?
Oh,
and then what does Feach say? I forgot the line that he actually said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He says, weapons of mass destruction. That's right. Because don't forget, those were during the Bush days.
Said
so
when I
mass
asked
destruction
him
was like in every
TV,
quote.
He said it was in the quest. A friend of mine passed away.
Yeah.
It was just, I actually thought, I remember when I first saw that episode, I thought Feach was going to try to kill the parole officer.
Yeah, me too. I thought
I mean, I'm like,
To be honest with you, I felt the other way. To be
I
honest with
thought,
you, because I
yeah, I
felt
thought he was
like
going to go
he's
for
like,
it.
"Fuck,
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like, fuck
I'm
it.
dead. I'm done."
You know?
He's like, I'm either going back to
Because
prison anyway, so
Yeah,
let me just
right,
try to
right.
get away.
But I think Tony played that well, man. Because I mean, he either had to whack the guy or have
right,
him set up,
Yeah.
and I feel like he did that. He did him justice because he didn't deserve to die. He's just a confused old man. You know what I'm saying? Like this ain't your time anymore, old man. So that's just
no,
so he did what he had to do, and I think he
right,
played it well.
Yeah, I think it's a lot
exactly.
easier to resolve than having to go chop him up in the back of Statue
Yeah,
Hall.
right.
Right, exactly. But I also felt like too, there's different ways that you
Yeah.
can kill somebody. You can kill them physically, but
Oh, for
mentally,
sure.
or you
That's a
can
great
kill
point.
them
That's a
spiritually.
really great point.
And that's what he did. He killed his spirit.
Yeah.
So that's what my philosophy was. Now we have this whole entire thing with Wegler and of course Carmella. They wind up sleeping together. She goes in the bathroom and finds that weird ass book and everything.
Oh, this
Then
this
episode 5,
episode
we have
and long-term
irregular
parking were
around the
like very
margins.
heavy Adriana episodes where I really felt badly for her.
Yes. Yep.
So
You know
yeah,
what? I'm gonna
sure.
let you
So
go ahead
Tony,
and take over
actually,
for
I
that
just
one though,
rewatched that one and
if you
long-term
want to.
parking today, and it's I mean, it's there's so much to say about it. But I think what really got to me the most was when Christopher kind of slapped her and just dragged her out of the apartment. It was like he had hit her before, but I feel like that was the first time where it was like just really like it was hard for me to watch. And I think it kind of ties in also the thing we were talking before about the grapevine, because obviously nothing nothing happened with her, and I guess I'll summarize it a little bit better. Of course, that Christopher's on a trip to North Carolina, so Adriana and Tony they do some kind of coke at the club, and then they were driving to get more, and then of course they get in an accident, and Christopher thinks that it's because she was giving him a blowjob while driving, and he doesn't believe her and thinks that that's what happened. And then, of course, it spreads around like that, even though they didn't actually do that in the first place.
Right.
And so then I feel like it's kind of one of those things, just like the perception, like where Tony B made Tony feel badly by saying your fat joke, like feeling like everyone thinks that your fiance was with this other guy. It's almost like he's more embarrassed for himself. Like he didn't actually he was not concerned about Adriana's well-being. He was just more concerned about his own position.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And that's really how it would go. Like if this was a real life situation, unfortunately that's how it would go. People would say, "Oh, she was with this guy," and and they were doing whatever. That's people are messy. That's and they put a little bit of realism in it, and I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Same here. And like you mentioned, Stephanie, earlier, this is actually where we actually deal with some realism, though, too. Where, remember, Tony B was actually the worst. Was actually the voice of reason with this
Right.
situation.
Right.
He's like, Tony, let's try it my way first. We don't have to kill Chris. So they go on ahead, go where the ER doctor is, and that's when he winds up saying, "Well, how the hell would I know if she wasn't having
Oh, that
oral
was
sex or not?"
great.
And
I
then
like
it went
the
into the whole
doctor.
entire
I liked how
detail
he
of the
was just
clap
very
hole and everything
straight up,
else.
like, I don't lie. I'm not in the business of lying.
Yeah, that was good.
And then also too, the doctor's scared shitless though, because after Tony B goes on ahead and confirms that she wasn't going down on Tony or anything, Tony's like,
Right, he's probably
here's
just
some
like, I
money
just
for your
want to get
trouble.
out of here. And then he was so confused, like Tony B's
runs out
like,
the
are you a
door.
doctor? Like he's it was that was a lot, and I feel like Christopher kind of had 9 lives, and I mean definitely
God, yeah, for
one
sure.
of them on there, but it was sad, but I think it was after that point it was never gonna really be the same with Tony and Christopher again.
Right.
No, same. Not only that, but if you
Exactly.
remember in season
Yep.
one, Chris makes good cases, but he does it at the wrong time. Especially
Yeah.
with the
Right,
Brandon
and
Malone
that's
thing,
what
he
he was
goes,
doing, and I feel like
this is
with
like
in Irregular
Scarface.
Around the
Say hello to
Margins,
my
how
little
he
friend.
came in and started like
He's like,
shooting it up. I feel like that was his own like say hello to my little friend
Yeah.
Scarface.
Yeah, for sure.
right.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
then also too, this is also where Adriana is suffering with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, as well. And also too, Finn doesn't know what Tony does for a living because remember he's at the club. Meadows in
He
there
has a really
too,
hard work ethic.
and he's like, "Wow, what a great guy! He must really know how to stay busy."
I mean,
Right?
yeah, I could just
You have
imagine
to
if I,
admire a guy
I
like
was
that.
thinking like
I'm
if I were
like,
met in that situation, I probably would have felt pretty awkward too. But at the same time, it's almost like she knows that he
right,
works at these places like as a front for his business. So it's almost like it's making her see things that she had been able to previously not see that now she was kind of bumping
right,
head into them head first.
right. And this is also too where Tony goes back to therapy.
Oh
And don't forget,
yeah.
Adriana and
Yeah,
them
but
looked like they were about to kiss until somebody banged
it
on
did
the
get a little
door
weird. You know what I'm saying? It got a
and
little like, oh shit.
and
I love
everything.
how Melfi
So
acted
Tony,
like he had made progress. Like
right,
she was like, you were able to not act impulsively, and you knew something. There was something you wanted to do, but you didn't do it. And it was like, no, they didn't do it because there was the knock at the door.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
yeah,
For sure. For sure. And I was kind of hoping it did.
right.
I mean, I'm not gonna
If it
lie. I was
wasn't
kind of
for that,
I
I
hoping
would
it
think
have
it
went
would
been
have been
down.
interesting.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have
but
been. Yeah, for sure.
then me too. I think so too. I also like how the FBI
I felt
agents
so
were
badly
making fun of that situation
for
though too.
Adriana right
Oh,
there
but
because it
he's
was like
different.
you could just tell like she was literally getting ripped apart, like
Oh my God.
literally like physically and
For
mentally.
sure.
And I was like,
Right.
the whole time they were just like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I guess obviously,
Right.
I'm not saying she was completely innocent, but it was, I felt like she was one of the people in the show that you felt that they, genuinely like had a good heart and meant well. And the fact that she was just like torn apart was so badly.
Yeah.
Right. And then this is another thing though too. Like I mentioned before with Tony.
Right.
Remember whenever everybody's making up rumors and all that stuff,
Right. He's like, everyone
and
assumes I
Tony looks
did.
at
I
Melfi
should
and
have
goes,
just
"I
done
should have
it.
fucked her."
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
He goes,
yeah, with
"Thank you
Tony,
for
it
the
was
advice,
always like
by
he
the way." And
wanted
Melfi's just
tangible
looking at
advice.
him
Like,
like,
okay,
"What did I
like I'm
do?"
coming here to you. Like, what have you given me? Like, uh, yeah, that was it's the pretty get. I
Right.
feel like the more we get into season 5, kind of like the heavier it gets. Although of course there's that like one episode in the middle that's kind of random
Yeah.
in Camelot, which I guess you'll probably just skip over. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Oh,
you and I talked about
I
that.
have.
That was like, a matter of fact, I only have maybe a page and a half for Camelot because of how creepy that. I mean,
That's a good description for it.
you know what's funny? I actually call it the creepy episode. But let's go with Sentimental Education episode 6 for 200, Alex. So let's see. So Tony B's linen truck gets stolen. Tony B shows up at the linen company. Kim is pissed at him, judging Tony B for being an ex-con, and thinks that Tony B planned for the truck to get stolen. AJ and Tony have an argument. Carmela is going on a date. Carmela's actually going on a date with Wagner again with AJ's teacher. She also has a meeting with the teacher about AJ's grades. Everything
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
this
this
is
shit made
nothing
me sick.
about AJ's grades
It's
over and
just,
over and over
it was
again.
irritating.
Comes to be a repetitiveness with the episode, and and it goes with the whole essay about being plagiarized. Tony B is trying to study for his masseuse exam. And I
Yeah.
find that actually funny that he
I
actually has a gangster trying to help
Oh no,
him
I was just
study
gonna
for
say I
his
think it's
masseuse
funny how
exam.
they always have like they'll
But
be these big
and then
serious
Father
gangsters, but
Phil,
then they'll have
what's
these
that?
very like random, seemingly not even like with the Sun Tzu, like kind of like little things that makes him, I guess, more human, I guess, but still
innocent moments.
Right. Because remember, Vito's actually helping him study, and then Chris comes in there. To me, Chris is like being a rapper with
right.
trying
He's
to
also
just come up with
so he's
something
like,
witty,
you know what I mean? He's
on
in
top
his
of his head to be encouraging to him.
Just kind of went through this whole like
through this whole
new way, like looking at things, positive motivation. So I feel like he's all like that's all fresh in his head. So he's trying to promote promote that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, that fucking.
Oh gosh.
Right. And then Father Phil, freeloading Father Phil. And you can tell Father Phil. This is nothing about him being a priest and telling Carmela what's right and what's wrong.
Oh.
This is actually about his own feelings for Carmela. If you actually think about it underneath the surface, Father Phil and Carm have dinner, and she tells Father Phil about her and the teacher having sex. Father Phil doesn't like it and consults with and wants her to consult with Tony about it. I
personally thought he got off really easily, like back in season 1, because I'm like, if that were in season 5, he would have been a dead man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Oh no, go ahead. That was it.
Right, definitely. And then I'll go ahead. And then, of course, my other favorite thing he tells her, Carm goes, well, didn't God put that feeling there, and then put that need there? He goes, no. Did you put that need there, or did God put that need there, or is there something that you want fulfilled? So there is that need there. So pretty much, Father Phil actually did a little reverse psychology on Carmela and everything, because she does want to, maybe hoping,
right. And it's
if she sleeps with the
I
teacher,
didn't even
maybe
really
he might
think
actually
of it
get
like that. And it wasn't
AJ
until
a break.
Wegler kind of like freaked out on her. I remember the first couple of times I was watching it, I was first like, oh, why did he do that? And I still think he handled it poorly, but then the more I rewatched it and I realized like how much of their conversation was consumed by talk about AJ. Yep. It was just, I mean, I couldn't blame him really for thinking that she was trying to use him. Not that I thought he handled it well, but I could see where he was coming from in that regard.
Yeah.
Me too. But 90% of my page notes is nothing
Season
but AJ's grades.
So
that just goes how many times Camilla drove the man crazy about AJ's grades.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was like if Vito Corleone can get a C for doing nothing for the teacher,
sleeping with the teacher,
like full little Godfather reference.
Right. Right. But I do have to admit, AJ was trying to do his best with some of the stuff that he was doing. Not all of it was probably on him, because I actually can relate to some teachers that were like that, in a sense, that was out to get me and stuff like that, to the point where they were actually trying to make up certain grades just so I could feel. So I could actually feel for AJ on that on some level. But other than that, he is a slacker. There's no other way.
It's repetitive over and over, AJ's grades and shit. But I mean, realistically, he was just a fucking brat kid, doing kid shit,
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, I thought it was interesting just how when
but like I said,
Carmela and Wegler, when they had their little parting, and she's like, "You better watch your step." It reminded me of how she wasn't back in full leather jacket in season 2, where she kind of had that momentary, like, I'm gonna, act like a too intimidating mom wife. But I just I thought it was interesting.
Right. And then let's see. Then you actually have, this is where I just put down like a little side note that Father Phil is just jealous of the fact that the teacher got some and he didn't.
Back and forth is going to go away. He wants that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows
that's actually
that he's
how
not
I
going
feel.
to actually have sex with Carmela, but he likes that interaction. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what he gets off on.
The spiritual thirst.
That's right.
Like what she was saying to him in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I also want to bring something up real quick about this episode. This is also too, I like how the linen truck is actually focused on Tony B's feet, because it starts off with him with work boots on, and then when he wakes up from that poker game,
Yeah.
he's in that suit. He's in one of those other type of shoes, like the mobsters wear, and it shows him going back in that life of
Sure.
being a mobster
Sure.
and
Oh
leaving
yeah, for
the
sure.
legit life alone. Which is, I think Tony actually
I
had
mean,
that
Tony
planned
wanted
out from the
Tony B
get
for his
go on
number
how to
two.
lure him
I mean,
in.
straight up. You know what I mean? Like that's what he was. When he came out of prison, he was somewhat molding him for that. And I mean,
Right.
it's really, to me, it's so fucked up how it ended for Tony B. But I mean, it had to be done. So
Yeah, it was, and that's why I think Christopher felt so threatened by him, because I think he realized that Tony wanted Tony
Definitely.
B to kind of be his,
yeah,
the number two.
right, yeah.
His go-to. This is also too where Kim found the linen truck. He apologized to Tony B, and Kim wants to be business partners with Tony B after he passes his exam. Kim wants his daughter to work for Tony B. AJ moves back into the house, which I also find it funny though too. We also forgot to mention that Artie and Tony both live together because Charmaine kicked him out of the house.
That
So you
reminds me.
actually
So
have
Artie, I was
three
thinking
guys
back when you
that's in the
mentioned how
house
you thought that
that
Tony
got kicked
B
out
or
of their
that
own
Tony
house.
had kind of that
So
all in his head planned for Tony B. It reminds me how when Artie back in season 4 was telling Tony that he sees things 20 steps ahead, that he's like a hawk, and that he knows things are going to happen. That it just kind of reminded me of the thing with Tony and Tony B in terms of wanting him to come back into life.
right. It also brings up where the
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
gambler though too, where the degenerate gambler, where he says, "You're like a shark. You already knew that this was going to happen." So I like that
yeah.
analogy as well. So it does play out pretty well in this other seasons where they actually mention that. So let's see, with Tony B. Okay, so Vito helps Tony B studying for his exam. Carla makes out with AJ's teacher in the car. Carmela and the teacher sleeps together. Tony B takes his physical therapy exam and passes it. Carmela tells Father Phil that her and the teacher, yeah, this is where we actually mentioned all the stuff that we just mentioned. Tony B and Tony's massage. Is that, matter of fact, Tony B and Tony S is at the massage business, and Kim's daughter walks in, and then that's when Christopher says,
And Tony B was like
looks at
actually
the
trying to
girl, and
be
then after she
serious,
walks
like
out,
he
he goes,
was
"Where can I
not
get some
looking
of
at
that
her in a
compound
sexual way,
coochie?"
like he was actually just trying to
So
be professional. And then that's all Christopher thought of, and I think Tony B was just kind of irritated at that because he's like, really, like I'm trying to do a fucking good thing here.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
and then also too, remember too,
with the
he's
dogs.
also making
Yeah.
references that there's actually a food restaurant next to the place. So right. And let's see here. Tony B finds drug money and drugs. Tony B slowly is getting back into the
Oh yeah.
life of the mob, like I mentioned,
Yeah.
and beats up Kim. I think the reason why he beats up Kim is because
Right.
he's busting his ass. He's the only
He's
one.
tired. Right.
Think of it. He's the
Right.
only one
And
that's
he's an
working his ass
asshole.
off.
Like
The
he's
daughter's
also,
not doing
saying
anything.
like if it wasn't
Him
for
not
Tony,
doing
like I
anything to
would
help.
never,
All
I
he
would
has is that
not
little
want to
mini
work
mart.
with you.
Right.
Like
He's
I
wore
feel
the
like
hell
he was
out.
just kind of testing him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So now we're getting into the creepiness of episode 7 in Camelot. This is my least favorite episode. I really don't like this episode, but Tony and Janice are arguing in front of AJ. Tony remembers having a dog named Pippi, and their father took the dog to the pound and put the dog down. Tony visits his father's grave. Tony sees a woman sitting on the bench, his father's mistress, Fran Flingstein. Tony's father took his dog to Fran's house instead of bringing the dog to the bed. Chris is in AA sponsoring James Mummer, an ex-addict and TV writer. Fran wears JFK's hat and sings
I
"Happy
think
B Day,
when he
Mr.
realized
President."
that
Tony,
she,
and then
because she said,
even
"Oh, I
Tony's
don't
getting
have
weirded
like
out on that
money,
one.
like I have a hard time paying the phone bill," and then when she then started talking about how she had like bought these like fancy shoes, I think that's when he first realized like she's a little kind of full of shit.
Yeah.
And then I think from then on, he was just more and more like turned off by her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, too, you know, this is actually after he winds up getting the money from Phil and Hitch.
Yeah.
She was supposed to do things for
Like the
her
hustle
to
and
actually help
friends.
her.
Like,
But she's just a
Mhm.
common hustler. She grew up on,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she's doing right.
Oh yeah.
Because think of it, she did the same thing to his father. And
the
also,
whole
too, he lived
thing, and
with
like
his
how he was
mistress,
with
which
how
is a big
Johnny was with her
no-no,
that
which
night
they
when
don't
I
do.
guess apparently Livia had a
It was just
miscarriage, or
weird.
she was in the hospital when she was pregnant, and that was like, and then when he made Tony lie, or he encouraged Tony to lie and say that they were at a baseball game, it was like,
Yep.
that's just, he put him in a really crappy situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And then this is also, too, when the mini race car track, which is barely even functioning anyways, and Phil doesn't want to give any part of the money to her, and then Hitch makes out a deal, and then they come to an agreement. Well, Hitch does, Phil doesn't. And then this is actually where it actually picks up a little bit, where Phil is ducking Tony for the money that he owes him, and Tony and Phil goes on a high-speed chase, causing Phil to crash the car. My favorite line in that scene is like, "Hey,
And he
mister,
just
are
kind of
you
like he
okay?
fucked his neck up and then he
Are you
grabs him
okay,
by the hair
mister?
and like
Give me
how
my
bad this shit
fucking
ever
money."
hurt. Oh my god!
I know. I was like, ouch. Although I didn't feel too badly because it was Phil, but I was like,
Right.
ow, that like would. I heard that they had to, when they were filming that scene. I don't remember where I read it or where I heard, but that they like had to do it a bunch of
Right.
times because for whatever reason, like I don't even remember why, but it was just something with the street. It was very. Oh yeah, because it was like an actual. I don't think they closed down the street. I think there was something like that. But yeah, that's mostly what I remember from in Camelot. I definitely don't watch it nearly as many times as the others. Yeah.
Same. That's my least favorite.
Yeah.
Like you said before, Stephanie, that's like
Pretty much,
D-Girl and
yeah.
The Hit is a Hit. So now we have Marco Polo, which is episode 8. This is where we actually have AJ's grandfather falling off the roof while AJ's doing that stupid song off the drum set that I wish he actually would learn something else.
Yeah, that was
New York puts
messed up, and I feel like
pressure on
at the end of the day, like Little Carmen, he
his boat.
He didn't want there to be any tension. Like he just wanted to do his thing, but they're just they couldn't just it was always about getting them back, like, and then get them back, etc.
Right. And let's see, Carmela wants to throw a party for her father, and Carmela's mother doesn't want Tony there. Johnny shows Tony his new sports car. Johnny wants Tony to pay up for Phil's car accident. Tony wants the car to be fixed at Pussy's car garage. Carmela wants Tony to go back to therapy. Junior tells Carmela's father that they are having a surprise B-Day for him.
Yeah.
It is ruined.
And he just does it right away. Like, he doesn't even try to do like literally like while Bobby's like in the room with him. Like, he just calls him up right away.
Yeah.
Right. And then let's see here. We actually have where Tony B collects money for the airbags, gives Tony his cut. Tony B wants
such a dick
to earn
about
more
it.
money.
He's like,
Phil
this just
goes
isn't
and
right.
picks up his car and gives them hell about the passenger seat being off the tracks.
Yeah, it was just like, like why you have to be like an ass for the sake of being an ass.
In
Like,
the paint,
being nitpicky
in the paint
over
too.
Stupid shit.
Yeah. That was...
Mm-hmm.
Now we're dealing with Carmela's father. Wants Tony at the party, or else he's not going.
I feel
Tony
like it was
B
almost
is working
like
with
this
the New
episode
York
was
family,
kind of like a
which is
little
Little
oasis,
Carmine's
almost
group.
like at the house itself. It was kind of like there was the sentimentality, which was more at the end, I think, also with Tony and Carm, but I feel like it was almost like they were temporarily back in better times.
Right. Yeah. Tony comes in twirling the sausages around his neck, and it's like everything's back to normal.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It just feels like times are back again, and that's something that I really liked. And then also too, that I want to mention is this. He also buys the guy a 12
It was
gauge
just
Beretta
it was
rifle
funny how he was
with
like,
a 20-inch barrel,
even said like, oh, this is
which I
Tony's
thought
house.
was actually funny.
Like, I just thought that was also interesting, like how it was his own daughter, but I guess that was just their very like traditional.
Yeah, old school mentality. Yep.
Right. Right. And then also too, Tony B is actually feeling like he's envying Tony and feels like he's being taken for granted because he's doing all this other stuff, like family stuff, taking pictures, going, and then also too, him taking care of that thing with Phil.
I always remember, like, I
it
feel
just
like
feels like
was
he's
really
being
snappy
not
with him in this episode. And granted, I know she was stressed when she was getting everything ready for the party, but I think he was trying to kind of like chit chat, and then I think he was a little off put by her and by what he felt was just her kind of like assigning him to do things like during the actual party. I think this whole episode as a whole like made him feel like, oh, you all just kind of think of me as like a under you, and made him more tempted to do this stuff for the New York guys.
Right. And then let's see here. Then we also have AJ and Tony throwing Carmela in the pool, playing Marco Polo, and after they get out of the pool, it's just them, and of course they end up having sex.
Right.
The next morning, Tony winds up leaving her. He tells Melfi and therapy because I just left her because I didn't want any confusion.
I also like how in the Russ Fagoli, Carm's parents, their friend the diplomat, how there's like there's a theory that he's actually Paulie's dad. I don't know if y'all have ever heard that. It's not like something that's ever confirmed, but it's because he was in the I guess how Paulie's father or Paulie's mother, Dottie. It probably should get into it more in like season 6, but there's just they go back and they think that they have a lot of similarities, and then like it's just but we could save that for another another episode
for sure.
Yeah, great. I would like to do that as well.
Definitely. I would like to actually have you back again, to be honest with you. We can finish up. Okay. So let's see here. Tony B. Oh yeah, this is where Tony B. Kid steals from AJ 96 Olympic pens. Tony B. shoots Joey Peeps, which is the New York crew coming out of the Bardilla with a prostitute. Joey's car runs over Tony's foot.
And I think it was like one of the things where once he did that, he's like, okay, it's kind of all over now.
Yeah.
Like he's like, okay, now I just might as well just do whatever I want, because like at that point there was no turning back.
Right. Exactly.
I think. I love this one because of Meadow and Finn, because of their whole
identified
like, blackmail
with the suitcase and everything. 9.
Yeah.
And with the job site.
This is where.
Oh no, I felt bad. I mean, I know I can take it, but I feel like
right.
I'll start it off. But I feel like I did not mean to just talk over the host.
Are you sure?
Thanks. Well, unidentified black. I think the one.
No.
What really
you're good. It's my way of welcoming you into the show and
the job site. How Finn started working at the construction site, and how Paulie started, like treated him like crap. I was like, go clean my tires, because he didn't realize that that Finn was Meadow's boyfriend. And then once he did, he was like, why didn't you tell me you were dating my niece? And then it's like he's like a member of the family. But then with Meadow and Finn with the suitcase, and how he sees Eugene hit little Paulie over the head with the bottle, and then he's like, oh, did you not ever see this violence when you're growing up? And then she gets into the whole thing about the poverty of the Mezzogiorno. And like, I feel like this is where Meadow really, really you can see she starts to fully kind of try to like rationalize everything in her head that her father does, and act like there's nothing wrong with it. Whereas like in the past, she kind of just, didn't really see it. So she's just like, oh, whatever, that's cool. But now it's like she's being confronted with it and has to find a way to, I don't know, I guess kind of justify it.
Right, because think of it like this: when she was in that house, she was a teenager. And everything too. She didn't understand from an adult's
Right.
perspective. Now that she's becoming an adult, she's actually understanding from adult's point of view and everything too.
Yeah.
So, but also too, this is also where Finn pisses off Tony for paying for dinner. Carmela is actually confused after sleeping with Tony. So then Johnny and Tony plays golf. Johnny thinks that little Carmine shot
when
Joey
they
Peeps.
go.
It's sad,
That
and then Tony
reminded
just
me
says,
of
"It's
it
sad
actually
when they
in
go like."
season 6,
It's sad when
episode
they go
12,
like
when
that.
little Carmine says, "Your brother Billy, whatever happened there?" And then Phil's like, "Whatever happened there?" This kind of reminded me of that, but with Tony and Johnny Sapp.
Yeah.
Like acts like it was an accident. Like
Right.
it just happened out of nowhere.
I thought that was actually funny. And then of course he's like, "When they go like that, what the fuck are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
And Tony knows subconsciously that Tony B did this, and he has a panic attack. That's what I put in my thoughts.
Yeah, something
and
when
everything.
he
because he only has
realizes
panic
there's
attacks
something that
whenever
he's
it's
like
actually
totally
containing to
beyond
him and
his
his guilt.
control. Like he feels like he can't control the situation, and it's like he then all of a sudden is confronted with the fact that these different forces are like all bumping up against each other, and that it's all involved him.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Exactly. Let's see what else we got here. Then Carmine Jr. trying to figure out what to do after killing Joey Peeps.
So
and how
I
to be more
have a
effective.
different. And this may also
He's
be affected
weak.
by the fact
There's
that
no
little
two
Carmine
ways
in
about
real
this
life,
guy.
Ray Boozer is like a really awesome guy. So it might be clouded by that. But I think that he, the malapropism is notwithstanding. I think that, of course that stuff was really silly, and you could tell they were all like, huh, like what is he saying? But I think overall he played the long game well. But I might be a minority opinion there.
Right. He made a few good hits. I'm not gonna lie. He did do a few good hits and everything, but he should have just he like his concierge said, you need to go ahead, pull those reins up, and show people who you are, rather than hiding in the shadows.
Right? Yeah,
if he would have done that, he would have
didn't
been
really
out
want to
front
be
and center,
and I think it would have been better if he kind of
running
just,
New York from that time.
realized that to begin with. Whereas Johnny Sack, like he really, really wanted to be the boss, and then of course with Phil. But those were he had some really funny lines in the show. And there was.
And then, of course, Finn can't find a job, complaining about living in a crappy apartment, blowing off dental school. Then we have Carmela. Now, this references back over to season 4. Remember when the guy from Whitecaps says, if I were you, I would go on ahead and call up all the top line lawyers?
Yeah.
And so that way Carmela can't come back at you for the divorce. And that's exactly what happened. Carmela.
I thought that was interesting. It was like
saying that he can't
early
represent
back
her,
in the
so,
like season 2. Remember
Tony
when Joan Cusimano was like, "I'm an officer of the court," and she's like, "You're a lawyer." Like she almost makes like lawyers are like nothing. Like, why do you think you're so special? But then now this season, she's like, "You have options. I have a lawyer." Like she tells everyone like she has a lawyer. It's like now they're all like, this big hot shit now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then let's see here. We actually Tony talks to Tony B about how someone saw him limping away, and Tony is bent over and backwards backwards with the car seats remaining neutral. Tony B acting like a free agent. Tony brings up how Tony B is mad about being arrested, and Tony didn't. And Tony B feels guilt over it. Tony B tells him to put him in.
Yeah, I thought that was
Put him in,
almost similar
coach,
to like him. I thought he was almost kind of
because
like
he feels like
not
because he
disrespecting.
feels
I don't know
like
if
he's
that's the
actually
word,
on the
but
sideline.
I feel like Tony didn't appreciate that when he said like, "Put me in, coach." I feel like he was like, "Really? Are you like, breaking my balls again?"
Yeah.
But I guess at that point, it wasn't really that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then let's see. Tony is giving Tony B the casino and opening the book and wants to open the books for him to be made. Tony had a panic attack the night Tony B got
Which sounds a
arrested.
really funny
Finn
moment, I think. Just
works at
in
the
general,
construction,
the
like
whole
you
thing.
mentioned, tells Meadow about Gene smashing a beer bottle over little Polly's head.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and I like how she
And
later, I
poor
don't know if
Meadow
it's this
though, she
episode or the
only
next
sees
one,
like a
where
small
she's like,
portion of it and thinks that they're just like little innocent
oh yeah,
people.
Vito Spatafore is a married man, Finn. I seriously doubt he's gonna kill you. As if like someone being a married man would mean that they wouldn't like.
Right.
Do you know this industry that they're in? Oh, and Felicia. That's just, I guess that's kind of like one of those things that doesn't really go anywhere. But I knew Finn. I knew that wasn't gonna end well. Just when he was being so flirtatious with her, like right away, I was just like, I feel like the fact that he was so easily interested in another girl, but maybe that was just me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. I saw that too, to be honest with you. And
Yeah,
then of
that's
course
the episode where
Vito being
he
interested
sees
in
Vito
Finn.
blowing that guy, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Because
so.
you're
Truck,
going with me to the New
I
York.
And he's like, I'm never going back there.
that shit was too funny. That shit was too funny. I think it was a security guard in the
I
truck
think
with
so.
Vito,
Yeah.
I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then when Vito tells, and then when they tells them the next, I think it's the next season.
Yeah.
Like, because they thought it was the guy blowing Vito, and there's like, no, it was Vito blowing them, and then they're like,
oh, that's too funny.
And then this is also too weird. Johnny thinks that Tony B killed Joey Peeps and threatens Tony when he should be.
Yeah, I think at that point it was just like you could see it was just getting more and more messy, and I think Tony was almost like trying to act like it wasn't like they were just in a separate reality. He was just trying to like hold things together and like not make things escalate, but I think he was realizing more and more how that was not going to end well.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. This one, episode 10 is actually called Cold Cuts. So we're not going to stay too long in this one.
I liked parts of it,
make that much notes for it. What about you, Steph?
I can't say there was too much about them going up to Uncle Pat's farm that I thought was like super memorable.
Right.
I think it was interesting the quote that the episode name gets its name from with Revenge is like serving cold cuts, and then she's like, no, I think it's a different quote actually, but I thought that was just an interesting back and forth with him and Melfi, but overall I wasn't like too much I took from this episode. Yeah, the Vespa scooters.
Right. This is actually where Johnny stiffs Tony on a job on the docks with the scooters, the motor scooters.
Yeah, that was great.
With the investors, Johnny is taking it personal about Joey's whacking.
Mm-mm.
Janice, soccer mom fight. Tony catches the fight on the news.
Oh, yeah.
And Bobby talks to Janice about her anger problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Which we actually see the Soprano anger problem that Melfi actually brings up At this moment, Chris and Adriana are sampling cakes for the wedding. Tony and Tony B tells Chris that they have to have a body off from an old family property. Chris talks about the time that Tony S and
Yeah, he gets
Tony
all his
B
feelings.
bullied him and at Uncle Pat's farm.
Oh no, I was gonna say you could like just
And
tell
go
that
ahead,
there's
Steph.
so much
I want to
of
hear your
their
thoughts on it.
current day like psychological issues is from like being bullied by someone when they were younger, like all this family drama and like baggage that they're clearly that they've never dealt with, or even if they tried to deal with it, they haven't dealt with it well. But it's just like you could tell that these little things have such a hold on them.
Oh yeah.
Continue, like to the present day, even like the thing with the varsity athlete thing, like it's such a random little thing, but like it's just
but still
can't
bothers them so much. Yeah.
Right. I feel like the little things is what matters the most and can be the biggest things. So that's what I actually feel like whenever it comes off that way with Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm
and
sure
everything, especially with the
us and
varsity
with things
thing.
in our lives, like there's I'm sure there's things that people can say that it just like that really gets to you, even if it seemed like it would be something.
Sure. Definitely.
Right. Let's see here. Then
which
after
she
that,
needs.
we actually have Janice getting to anger management. We have Carmela draining the pool. Right. Chris and Tony B driving to the farm to get rid of the body. Bonding time with Tony B was bullied and called Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
And I think that shit was just made up, to be honest with you, because remember when Chris calls him out on it at the restaurant?
Yeah.
And Tony B's like, "What is he even talking about?"
They loved to dish it, but they didn't like taking it, like when they were kind of shooting the shit with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially the 12-step program thing. Because why don't you go ahead, take 12 steps and get the fuck out of here? And I blame them for Chris's addiction comeback.
It was they,
really
they didn't make it very easy for him, and I think especially with like what happened in the middle of the season with with Adriana, I think I just think that really put a wrench in their relationship.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Most definitely. Then Janet's anger problems. Tony talks about it at therapy. Carmela tells AJ's teacher she's going back to Tony.
Yeah.
And that was just like a spare of the moment type of thing, like brief in the hallway.
I always thought it was random, like that he had the balls to even try to go with her, especially that she literally she had described Tony as her husband, like in the movie with AJ.
Yeah, no shit.
I always thought that it was, I guess though he didn't know, like he was not someone that was involved in the Mafia, so it wasn't like he didn't think of him like that. He's like, oh, there's just this woman's husband. I guess he really didn't think anything of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, Stephanie, let's backtrack for a minute because I know you mentioned how the teacher actually handled the whole situation with Carmela. So we never really actually talked about it. So I was just wondering if you wanted to touch base on that one, if you wanted
kind
to.
of in their honeymoon phase, and they had just sleeping together, and then I think they stop and they're both looking up at the ceiling, and then Carmela decides to use the moment to ask something about AJ's grades. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was something about do you think he might want to go to this thing? And it was just
the college.
Wegler I think he tried to change the subject briefly, and then she kept going on and on about it, and then he just couldn't. He just got up and went into the bathroom, and then just came out, and she's eating this little chocolate from his thing, and then he just kind of lost it and was just I think we need to time out, and you probably, it was just you tried to get me to you basically use your body to trap me into this, this is your plan, and then of course she didn't react well to that,
right?
But that's definitely and I understand his frustration. It was extremely annoying, but of course I don't think he necessarily handled it the best way.
Yeah, and like you said, the balls on this.
It was
guy,
the wrong time.
I mean, Jesus Christ!
Because
it's Tony's wife, that he's messing with. And then on top of that, he yells at her and he's saying these things like, man, do you know, like, clearly you don't know exactly who you're fucking with. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to chill out. Step down, man.
Remember when he called her? When he called her, actually, I just remember when Tony was over and she was like doing the dishes, and then he called and he was like, "What are you wearing?" And she was trying to let him know, like, "Oh, like someone's here, like I can't talk," and he wouldn't get it. And he just kept going. I was like, "This guy is he trying to
right. I mean,
like what?"
Jesus Christ, this guy. I'm like, fuck.
Right. Right. Yes. Well, thank you, Mr. Wagler. Thank you. And Tony goes, "So what did he want?" He goes, "Oh, it was about AJ's grades."
You got to walk away from the TV at that point. It's like, again with the fucking grades, man.
I'm like,
it's like, shit, we get
it. So we actually are moving away from the grades, so to speak, because we're actually talking about the test stream in episode 11. So we're actually on episode 11 now. We're actually 2 episodes away from closing out on season 5. So Tony and Valentina, she gets burnt making Tony something to eat. She's complaining because Tony and her don't spend enough time together. Tony B gets paid for whacking Joey Peeps. Phil whacks Angelo for being loyal to little Carmine. Tony brings to Tony B for his housekeeper. Oh yeah, enchiladas. Tony brings over the enchiladas to Tony B from his housekeeper. Tony rants to Tony about Carmela,
and about the notary public. This is where I think he mentioned Charmaine.
Yeah.
Charmaine Muga.
Right. Yeah, this is where he actually says, "You know what? What do you think about this, Tony? I think Charmaine would be a great woman in my life. I think that's what I need. What do you think?" And he's, of course, Tony B's focused on picking up the kids' toys, doing anything but focus on.
Oh, for sure.
The more that Tony kept going on and on, he was just like, "Really, dude? Like, you have so many, like, you have it so easy compared to me."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then Hesh also does that too at season 6, where he's just tired of Tony because he calls him up in the middle of the night.
Oh, I really hated how that ended in season 6.
Not having it
with Hesh and Tony. That was like, that was disappointing.
Yeah, it was.
Right. But Tony checks in at a hotel under an alias name. He calls the girl. Okay, yeah. Tony calls Tony B. He can't reach him, and at the casino. This is also, of course, Tony calls Tony B's mother looking for Tony. No one has seen him or heard from him. Polly tells Tony about Angelo. Tony dreams that Carmine is in bed with him. Yeah. And then Tony gets a call saying his friend has to go. So this is all about him having to deal with maybe having to whack his own cousin. It's right there in black and blue, saying his friend has to go. Tony in therapy. Gloria is actually the therapist.
Oh,
and
right.
Like
when
he's
she's
admitting stuff to her. That's actually
Gloria,
a little side
I feel like it
note
was like him kind of talking things out with her.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when she mentioned like, "Oh, I never had kids," blah blah blah. It was just kind of like his way of trying to get some sort of closure with her. But it was weird. I mean, a lot of people love Test Stream. I would admit it's not my favorite. I know that it has a purpose and it's important in terms of like Tony's psyche, but I've never the dream sequences aren't usually my favorite. But that's just an individual preference thing because I know that some people love them.
Right. Right. With this one, I particularly loved it, to be honest with you, because it's just straightforward to the point, even though some of it doesn't make sense. Because none of our dreams actually make sense, But Tony gets a call saying his friend has to go. Tony's in therapy. So Tony is in a car with his dad driving Pussy in the passenger seat, Mikey in the back seat, Ralphie in the car, driving him to Carmela's house, Phantom Meadows' engagement party. Tony dreams Tony B whack Phil in reference to Tony B whacking Phil's brother, and Tony having to whack Tony B. Phil is in the hospital.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things I actually crack up laughing about is the horse scene inside the
Yes.
house.
Yeah.
And it's reference to his horse instead of horse. She goes, and he goes, "What do you think about me moving back in?"
Oh,
He
that
goes,
was so
"Yeah, but your
symbolic.
horse can't live here."
That's
He
too
goes,
funny.
"I'll
That was,
clean
I
up
think,
after."
yeah, it was very symbolic of like kind of I'm gonna keep these two things separate.
Yeah.
Almost like I'm gonna clean up. Like I'm not gonna, I'm gonna like I will not let that impede on or get too mixed up in here. Essentially, like just how Irina called the house. Like it was like she was invading almost the safe sacred space of the house.
Right.
And then of course with the horse, which is I think symbolic as a whole, like, when you think of Pyomai and then like Pyomai and then Tracy, like animals were very symbolic on the show as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Right. And it's the same type of horse like Pyomai too. So it's a little throwback. But I like how she said the whores are always shitting on the floor in reference to the cologne, the perfume that he comes back smelling like. So I thought that was actually pretty clever in the dream sequence and stuff like that. And then now we're getting into long-term parking, episode 12 with Adriana.
Yeah.
This was a no. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just so it's always
Yeah.
it's it was a really heavy one.
Go
Actually,
ahead. I want to hear your thoughts.
I watched it a bunch of times, but I rewatched it today because I wanted to make sure that I was fresh on it. And it's hard, of course. The scene where he's when she first tells Christopher that she's been talking to the FBI and he nearly chokes her to death. Like that one's even like worse, even rougher for me than the one with Syl. But it's I think it was kind of inevitable. Unfortunately, it was just a matter of time. But it's sad that she became a casualty of it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's we know, like, we're watching this show. Definitely. And we're that's their business. They have to do that. You know what I'm saying? That's just things they have to do. Obviously, we don't agree with what's happening, but it's like that it has to happen. Like in that world, that shit that has to happen. Like she has to go. She's been talking to the feds, and that's it. Right. But it just sucks, though, man. You see it, and you're like, "Fuck, man." She was so confused and just trying to do the right thing, and it was all fucked up.
I always think about how I wish, like, when she had first been approached by the FBI, like when they told her, not that it was Danielle, but like this is actually, with the FBI. Like I just wish she would have been like, I need to talk to my lawyer.
Right. Yep. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're going through the situation like that, your head is not being cleared.
Yeah,
either.
For sure.
Right. There wasn't really any
especially under
answer.
Indictments and stuff.
I mean, at that point, I almost think about sometimes, how she almost told Carm and the other ladies when they were at their little movie night. I almost wonder what would have happened, but I mean, I don't think it would have been anything different because, I mean, even if they didn't tell Tony or them, like, what were they going to do?
Yeah, right. I think, for sure.
It would still be the same outcome, I think, sooner or later. But yeah, Adriana is actually throwing away garbage bags from her club. She has IBS still. It's getting worse. FBI is surveilling the place. Tony tells Carm that he had a dream that he moved back into the house. Phil has flashbacks of his brother being whacked right in front of him. Carmine Jr. wonders where did it all go wrong with countering attacks and attacking Johnny's crew. Carmine Jr. doesn't want to be out in the open about being the boss. We captured that part. Tony B is lambing it and hiding. Tony has a sit down with Phil and Johnny. Phil is pissed at Tony for taking up for Tony B and threatens to whack a member of Tony's family just so that he can make him feel the same way that Phil feels. And then, Chris, of course, at that time, Chris is actually pissed off because he feels like he got threatened, which he did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Boy Scouts found a dead body washed up on the beach. And my favorite line that Adriana makes
Oh,
about
yeah,
that
with
whole
the
entire thing
school
about the drug dealer
thing.
goes, "Oh, he was such a Christian guy." Yeah, yeah. He wants. This is goes. He winds up saying. She winds up saying. Hold on one second. I might actually have the exact quote. Let's see. No, I don't have the quote,
Yeah.
but he's such a nice guy.
Such a
He
good guy.
prays all the
Such a good
time,
guy.
and he doesn't use anymore. He
He's
just
always
sells. So that makes me laugh.